I get asked about streamlining, automating, delegating all the time because so many tutors and edupreneurs that I speak to have grown, which is great. But alongside that growth, their admin has grown with it. And that doesn't take into account all the things they want to do or that they feel they should be doing. And they don't really even have time or the headspace to think about those things, let alone actually do them. Now, if you're new to this podcast, I'm Sumantha McMahon and welcome. I've worked with well over 100 tutors and edupreneurs, helping make their businesses more lucrative whilst releasing time and while protecting the impact they make and creating options for the future so they're not boxed in. I'm the founder of the amazing community and training hub, the Tutors Mastermind, which is a membership, and I also support people in my one-to-one program. All the links are in the show notes if you want to check them out and on my website, www.upgradeyoureducationbusiness.com. And if you are nodding your head thinking I'd quite like that to make my business more lucrative while releasing time, this episode is such a great place to start because streamlining, automating, delegating, it means you get to do just that. You release time so you spend time on things that are more worth your skill set and your expertise. So I'm going to start with a simple question that should form the basis of how you make decisions about what you should actually delegate to automation or to a person. We'll talk about streamlining in a bit. The question that I want to ask is, what can't happen without me? So take this podcast. The actual recording of it couldn't happen without me. But if I was to be ruthless about delegating it, someone else could gather the ideas. They could do the scripting of the episodes. They can do the editing, the posting on social media, and so on. Now, that gives me a place to start. It doesn't mean that I have to delegate all of those things, but now I know what I can delegate. I choose to do the scripting side of things and obviously the recording, but I delegate the editing, the social media side. I hadn't always done that, but I do now. And it's a choice because if I really needed or wanted to extract myself from it more, then I could just be the person who sits down and records, and that's it. Now, I'm starting here because this is the part people tend to find the hardest. They find it hard to shift from the mindset of, oh, but this needs me, or someone can't do this as well as me. I've been there. But it's important to shift from that to, I'm a valuable resource in my business, so how can I be best utilized? I know delegating, automating can feel scary because it does come with a monetary cost. But honestly, if you're doing it strategically and if you are seeing yourself as a resource, you'll make a lot back on that investment because you'll then be spending time doing things that add value, things that generate income, or even just having time to be well rested so that you can produce higher quality ideas so that your delivery is even better. So you do get a real return on that investment. Another thing people worry about, let me know if you nod your head to this one, is how if you delegate things to technology, you'll lose the human touch, the personal element. They don't want to come across too stuffy or too corporate. But there are so many ways to use automation in a way that doesn't feel like that. I'll give you a really simple example. I use Calendly, which is a call booking app. So you click a link, you find a time in my diary, maybe you answer some questions, and that's how we go. When I want to soften that process of sending the link, I just message people with something like, look, do you mind if I send you my call booking link so we don't end up going back and forth? Just let me know if you can't find a date and we'll sort something out. So with your language, with how you interact, if this is a worry for you, then you can change that. And it's really worthwhile remembering that we live in a highly automated world. When we buy something online, we know that there isn't a human manually sending us a confirmation email or our receipt and so on. We know it's automated and it doesn't put us off. So even though us educators are in a relationship driven industry, we can protect that while protecting our time as well. In fact, if you automate, you have more time to spend on that meaningful relationship side, on the customer care, on just nurturing those relationships because you're not so busy with the admin. So look at all the admin you do in your business and ask yourself if any of it could be done without you. Start there. Is doing invoicing something that needs you? Is it something that's a good use of your expertise and your time? If not, it's something that can be automated or delegated. With that, I choose automation because it doesn't really need a human touch to, produce invoices and send them at a frequency. Now, I'm going to take just a quick minute just to interrupt this episode to ask you a very small favor. It will cost you nothing and it will take just a few seconds of your time. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it would be amazing if you could leave a small review. You can pause the episode right now and do it. I promise it won't take long. And it really helps small podcasters like me reach more people to help more people. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That's it. So let's get back to it. I'll talk about how to delegate to a VA or someone else in your business very shortly. But as promised, I'm going to move on to streamlining because it's so closely linked to automating. When you choose to automate something, it means that your process has to be entirely logical because a machine will only follow logical instructions to carry out the task. It won't take a moment to make a judgment call. This process alone leads to a lot of streamlining just by default. So if I were to take that invoicing example that I mentioned earlier, let's say right now, I look at my calendar and I count exactly how many lessons each tutee is going to have in the coming month. I create an invoice, and on that invoice, I list all the dates and times so they've got it in one place, and then I send it across. I would streamline that first to get rid of that list that goes on the invoice because that's potentially hard to automate. I would make sure my students have a fixed schedule so ad hoc lessons don't become an issue. And if I want to cater for something like ad hoc lessons, I might use a platform that facilitates that, where people can book onto the calendar, for example. I'd do that rather than managing emails flying in and then manually updating my calendar, manually updating the invoice. So immediately I've made the organization easier. I've cut out a step, which also makes it easier to automate. And if you still do it manually, it's less time consuming. If I go back to that manual way of doing things, maybe on my invoices, I put my bank details. Well, that adds an additional task for me because now I have to track who has paid, who hasn't, I have to chase people and so on. So instead of that, I could use a payment processor like Stripe. And yes, they take a small fee, but you're paying for the automation. That will take the money automatically. And I can use a platform like I use my accounts package to send automatic reminders at specific frequencies until that invoice is paid. Again, I've streamlined the process and I've used that underlying principle that my expertise and time, it's not best placed chasing people for payments or checking if someone has paid. Okay, so now let's talk about delegating. Like many people, the first thing I ever wanted to delegate was my social media marketing. I don't actually delegate it now, but I used to when I was promoting my tuition business. But the thing that stopped me for so long was how people wouldn't do it the way I do it, and that someone needs to be a teacher, someone needs to know my subject because I was sharing, these nuances about my subject and so on. But I'll tell you who did mine. I'm an English tutor and I delegated to a fabulous VA who wasn't an educator and was actually dyslexic, and it worked brilliantly. The first thing I let go of is the expectation that everything would be at the same standard as what I produced. You have to be okay with losing a little bit of that quality, if you like, at the start, particularly at the start. But as you work with someone, and if that person is good, like my VA was excellent, it won't take them long until they produce things at the standard you want, or even better than you were producing. The second thing I thought of is how can I systemize this? Similar to how you'd think about automating. So I put together a weekly schedule and I decided on the style of content that would go out on each day. So on a Monday, it might be this, on a Wednesday, it might be that. Then I headed over to Pinterest and I created a board for each day and I shared it with my VA. And in each board, I'd gather examples from my past content, as well as other ideas that I found just for inspiration. Nowadays, with AI, You could do this much faster and it would be so much easier. You could create, for example, chat GPT prompts or custom GPTs and so on, and you can give people an idea of the voice and everything like that. So remember, the question that drives your decisions is what can't happen without me. That will throw out all the things you could be delegating or automating. That doesn't mean you have to do it all, but you've now pinpointed what could be delegated, what could be automated. Now, when you go through either of those processes, you naturally end up focusing on systemizing as much as possible. So, what do you need to change or adapt to make something systemized, which naturally streamlines it? You might feel resistant to this because you might say, no, but I really like how things work. I want to keep them just as they are. But you know the saying, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And if you want to release time, quite simply, something's got to give. We have to compromise a little bit. I can honestly say that since I started doing all of this, the streamlining, the delegating, the automating, my business has really grown, not just in terms of revenue and profit, but also in terms of it enabling something closer to the way I want to work. I don't want to work all the time, but I want my business to keep getting stronger. So all these things give me time, they give me headspace. I have more free time to spend with people who I love and to do things which I love. And that in turn actually gives me time to think more creatively, not just for me, but for the tutors and the edupreneurs I support and my tutees. I'm having to be another brain in someone else's business on repeat. I have to come up with ideas and solutions and things like that. And I can't do that if I am working all the time. So, streamlining, automation, all of it has really boosted my business. And I want to share that because if you're even slightly hesitant, just start with one thing, just one thing. See what the experience is like. The one thing, the first bit of automation I used actually was for my invoicing. I think that's why I thought of it. I used it for my invoicing and then I used Stripe. And when I saw how it just released time and I didn't have to do this admin job that I really actually disliked, that was it. I was hooked. And actually, the biggest expense in my business is my tech stack because I automate so much so that I can release time. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, you'll hear from me on Wednesday. And if you have any questions, you know where I am. Come and connect with me. Ask away. I always listen to questions. I always listen to requests. So you never know, your idea might make it onto the podcast. See you on Wednesday.